Hello, everyone. I am Todd Mason, and welcome to this installment of our video this week. We have a very special guest with us, Justin Alfond from Full Plates, Full Potential. And Justin, welcome. I'm so glad to be able to talk to you today. You and I have had a number of great conversations over the years and a great partnership, and so happy to be able to introduce you to our group. So, Justin, if you would, tell us a little bit about Full Plates, Full Potential. Kind of what is it? What's its mission? And how do you help out those in need in our state?
Well, thanks, Todd, for having me. And really so thrilled to be talking to you and all the credit unions out there about our partnership and what Full Plates, Full Potential does. So Full Plates, Full Potential at its core is trying to end childhood hunger in the state of Maine. And we do that by working with schools and community organizations that are already running existing United States Department of Agriculture programs. So that's breakfast, lunch, after school and summer. They're already running these programs. And we look at those programs and say, can we do better? And if we can do better, if we can feed more kids, increase participation, how do we do it? What are the barriers? And we work every single day, whether it's technical expertise, giving grants, working on policy to figure out how we remove those barriers to feed more kids so that we can get to our mission, which is to end childhood hunger in Maine.
Yeah, one of the things, and maybe you can speak to it a little bit. One of the things I love about your organization is all the things you said and connecting the dots between, yes, creating and doing new things, but also connecting the dots between things that are already there. Organizations are already there. Can you speak to a little bit about other organizations that are involved in your cause?
Yeah, what we realized when we were started in 2014 was that we didn't start this alone. We actually
Right.
started it with Good Shepherd Food Bank and Preble Street and Catholic Charities and Let's Go and so many others. Apologize if I left you out. But this entire group, we all have a common goal of ensuring that we touch the entire state, look at hunger both from adults to children, and then we all go and do our work, but we want to make sure we're doing our work with efficiency. So we're not, we don't want duplication, and we got to make sure we're not leaving anyone behind. And we're making sure that we use resources wisely, and we're using advocacy in a way to remove barriers, and making sure that we're just communicating and collaborating every step of the way. And so our leadership council does that once every quarter. We're on, right now a Zoom call with the Maine Department of Education, with our partners, all making sure that we understand the task at hand and what we need to do to ensure that families, children, adults aren't hungry.
Yeah, and having sat on a few of those calls and participated in a few of those meetings myself, it's just the passion and energy and dedication of that group and willingness, even though they're different organizations, to work together towards a common cause is great. And just appreciate your leadership in figuring out how to bring those groups together. Well, we couldn't have a conversation today without talking about COVID, of course. And so, how has COVID affected your work and your ability to do what you do for schools and for kids?
So at the beginning of March of last year, we started getting inquiries from our school and community partners saying, look, we're seeing schools and community organizations on the West Coast and in New York State all shut down. What are we going to do here in Maine? And we were obviously thrilled about that communication and partnerships that they felt confident enough to reach out to us. And so we started, looking at our kind of whiteboard and saying, well, what's our response going to be? And even though we had never done this before, we said, how about we start an emergency fund and we grant out monies right away to schools and community organizations to ensure that kids continue getting access while they're learning at home last March, April, May, June. And so we have taken that one emergency fund and we're on our fourth fund now. Those funds, through the generosity of the Maine Credit Union and so many Mainers, have awarded over $1.3 million since last March. And all of it is going towards not only the short-term needs, which is often the case because we're in a pandemic and we've got to make sure that kids can be getting access, but we're also starting to kind of redirect our awards towards sustainable infrastructure so that even beyond the pandemic, those breakfast carts, those point of sale systems, different kind of infrastructure to ensure that kids are fed beyond the pandemic when whatever the new normal looks like, We want to make sure that the infrastructure is there to change participation, to feed more kids. So that's what we've been doing. It's been a big, big lift. We have an incredible staff, an incredible team, and incredible partners to ensure that we could do it. And we're, every day learning something and trying to pivot when we need to meet the demands of Mainers, Maine kids, as we continue on this journey of COVID.
No, and yeah, of course. I mean, you got to figure it out. And, just who would have ever anticipated all the challenge, I mean, COVID alone, but all the challenges associated with it. And you've been able to help figure it out and get the resources in helping our schools and helping our kids. So you talked in your opening comments, you talked a little bit about policy. And I'm sure everyone knows, but just in case they don't, you spent a couple of years in the Senate, and you were Senate president. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of what role does public policy play in terms of access to food and addressing hunger?
So our organization was built out of the Maine state legislature. There was a task force in 2014 that basically looked at what's going on in our schools and community organizations, what are the opportunities, and how do we ensure that more kids are participating in the USDA programs. Because of that, we're very familiar with the legislature. We look at it as an asset. And even though we have to absolutely keep our eye on the ball of all the short-term needs that schools need, if we're going to structurally change childhood hunger in Maine, it's going to mean we've got to move mountains, and meaning a lot of policies that create more access for children. So every single session since we've been established, we have gone up to Augusta, found sponsors to introduce bills to remove barriers, to create more opportunities for kids, schools, and community organizations. Mm-hmm. This session is no different. We have 5 bills that are going to be introduced, including one that structurally could change the whole playing field for our state, which is universal meals, meaning that every single day, every child in Maine could go to our schools and get access to breakfast and lunch without any income restrictions. And the reason we feel like this is going to be a game changer is that the stigma that gets established, even though schools have done such a good job of removing stigma, the kind of the challenges of parents sending some kids with brown bags to school and some kids getting the meals being prepared in school, we need to end all of that. Every kid needs a nutritious breakfast and lunch every single day. We know the academic piece falls into place, the disciplinary piece falls into place, so many aspects of public safety of schools. When kids are well fed and well nourished, they're going to achieve more, they're going to have a better chance to reach their potential. So this session will be no different. We'll have a big role up in Augusta. We hope that we'll educate, learn, and figure out ways to pass not only universal school meals, but the other 4 bills that we think are really important to keep moving these structural changes to end childhood hunger in Maine.
No, I think I think it's important, and it's been as we have been evolving our strategy and our approach. We absolutely need to continue to raise dollars and put efforts towards helping those that need food and making sure people have enough, whether it's kids, adults, seniors, whatever it may be, they have enough to eat. And I think that's a big part of it. But the other part of it, of course, is how do you address the reasons people become hungry in the first place? And how do you help them not be hungry? And I think it's all the things, good education. It's making sure all the things that you just ran through, and appreciate that perspective. There's probably a question you should ask for me, but I'm going to ask you instead. Can you describe, a couple of, or example or two of, the ways that we have worked together, your organization and our credit unions?
Well, I can't thank you enough for that question, because this is a big thank you to you, Todd, and your team and all of your credit unions. For many years now, we have been able to figure out not only how to work on policy, just to connect the last question, and some of your teams sit on the leadership council. So every quarter they're learning and they're bringing ideas to the table, which is what we want. We don't pretend to have all the answers. That's why we have a big group. But also in the direct funding of not only statewide needs, but also individual community needs. And one great example that I think I'd love to share is that
Yeah.
this summer, or last summer, excuse me, we started realizing that the federal government wasn't very clear on what was going to happen during summertime
Mhm.
and summertime programs. We knew that there was potentially going to be a big cliff where all of a sudden kids were eating universal meals all the way through the end of the school in June, and then summertime it was going to be just a very, very difficult time for kids. So we reached out to you and Jen,
Mhm.
and we said, look, there are about 15 different communities that we have applications in. They've passed the muster. They're asking for exactly the right things for best practices, but we don't have the funding to get them these dollars. Would you guys be able to roll up your sleeves with us to figure out how do we solve this? And sure enough, once again, the Maine Credit Union came through. And not only did you come through with these amazing investment dollars for these 15 communities, you actually added a couple, which you were like, what about this community over here, or that community over here? And that's the type of partnership you kind of dream about, right? You pick up the phone, there's trust, there's a relationship, there's experience. And we did it together. We helped about 20 different communities have a much better summer program than they ever could have without our help. And we were thrilled. I know how thrilled Jen was, and you were, and it's exciting to think what you can do together. Not with lots and lots of dollars. I mean, that's not always
Yeah.
the answer. Sometimes it's just being very strategic and being
Yep.
real thoughtful and overlaying what our needs are with where your branches are, and that's what we did, and it worked out terrifically.
Yeah, well, thank you too. I wasn't looking for a thank you, but you're welcome, and thank you to you too. And it was an incredible amount of creativity between our groups and of course our credit unions. And like you said, one of the things we did with that specific example, just to go in a little more detail, is we took the addresses of those local schools that needed help, and we matched those up with the addresses of local credit union branches, and tried to make the marriage, and it really, really worked in helping get those credit unions to be able to help their local school and their local community. And it was just so effective, and just appreciate the work that you do and helping mash that data together to make it happen. So thank you for that. So last question, and this is asking you to look into your crystal ball a little bit, and that is, do you see a world without hunger? And if you do, when do you see that becoming a reality?
So what I love about our state is that our state and we're neighbors, we're communities,
Mhm.
and we're schools, and we're businesses, and we all know each other. And we have plenty of food in this state,
Mhm.
and we have plenty of desire in this state to end hunger for all. And I do believe we can do it. And I think it's winnable. And it's winnable because of the partners that we have on the ground. It's winnable because of the policymakers we
Yep.
have in Augusta. It's winnable because of the businesses and nonprofits and even the academia. Like everyone, we're all pointing and rowing in the right direction. I love to make sure that I'm kind of staying in contact and also aligning with the state. And the state has a big goal by 2030
Mhm.
to end hunger. I think that should be a far-reaching goal. I also like one of our partners that just announced by 2025 they want to end hunger in our state. So I'll take the 2025 as like, let's shoot for that. And
Yeah.
then as a backup, let's have 2030. But I do believe we can start raising the flag in communities where kids have access to all the meals in school, and then out of school, community partners like Good Shepherd and others have pantries and other programs where everyone knows exactly where they need to go without any stigma, without any sort of shame, to ensure that they and their families have access to nutritious food 365 days a year. And I think that we can do it. I know we can do it. It's winnable. And now it's just rolling up our sleeves and making sure that we're smart and strategic in doing so.
No, and that thank you for those words of hope. And I agree. It is a winnable battle. We have, as you said, we have the resources, we have the talent, we have the energy and the passion. behind it, and it's just getting the right plan and the right effort. And fortunately, we've got folks like you, leaders like you in our state, showing us the way and coordinating the efforts and drawing out the plan. So Justin, thank you so much for all that you do for ending hunger, all that you do for our state, and your service back in the Senate. We appreciate that too. We need more leaders like you. So thank you, and look forward to talking to you hopefully in the not too distant future.
Thank you very much, Todd.